What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I hope you like this video. Listen, this is New Orleans Homecoming, this Real World Homecoming New Orleans episode 3. So let me just say this before I get into the episode. Julie is dangerous. I'm loving Melissa and Tokyo's vibe because they're at the point where they can have a whole conversation without saying a word. They could just look at each other and be like, yep, I appreciate that. I'm mad at Jamie. I'm mad at Danny. And we'll get to it. So let's get into this. So we are still at the club. And Julie is so damn drunk and so damn belligerent. And I'm going to keep using the word belligerent because David used it and I'm going to keep using it. That she doesn't want to leave, and she literally ran back into the club. Because she doesn't understand why, if she's not ready to leave, why does she have to leave? And she doesn't understand what the problem is. And everybody is trying to tell her, including production, girl, you got to go. We got to get out of here. They finally get her ass out of there. And she literally, when they got back to the house, she literally face planted. I'll use Melissa's word. She fell out of the car and she couldn't even catch herself. And her whole face hit the concrete. Now, I'm going to be honest with y'all. I really feel like they probably should have took her to the hospital. Because the way she hit that damn concrete, I was like, bitch. I feel like if it wasn't the panorama and the hospital situation wasn't what it is, that maybe they would have took her. Because if nothing else, just to make sure she alright. Because, she hit the concrete hard. So then they get her up. And once again, they're trying to get her in the house, and her ass won't come in the house. She done ran into a damn tree. And David, once again, is trying to get her, redirect her. And she's like, get your hands off me, get your hands off me. And then you saw David do this. David, it was in that moment that you probably should have left her to her own devices. I understand why you did what you did as a friend. You know what I mean? Because literally she was throwing up all night, and David held her hand, and he cleaned up her vomit, which is way more than I would have done for anybody. Let's be clear. He cleaned up her vomit, and he even slept on the floor next to her just to make sure that if she woke up in the middle of the night, she ain't need nothing. The next morning, this bitch is up doing yoga like ain't nothing happened. So this says one of two things to me. Girl, this ain't your first time at the rodeo. This is not your first. You sit here talking about something. This is the 4th or 5th time you've ever drunk. Bullshit, lies, and the truth ain't in you. Ain't nowhere in the world that's the 3rd or 4th time that you've had a drink and you were so casual about your recovery. Please understand that if that was the 1st or 2nd time, 3rd, 4th time that you've ever drank and you got that stinking drunk and you get up the next day and you're doing yoga and you're acting like, oh, it's cool, I'm good, it's not that serious. Girl, this ain't your first time at the rodeo. And Melissa and Tokyo had that conversation. They were like, well, you know what that means. I was like, yep, So, and I would say maybe she was exaggerating her drunkenness, but the vomit told me otherwise. Okay, the vomit and no, the face plant. You ain't faking the face plant. Like, you would have caught yourself. You might have let yourself fall out the car. And I'm saying this for a reason. We're gonna get to that in a minute. But it's certain things that made me feel like, nope. Now, while this is going on, Danny ends up letting us know that he has a daughter. He was married. He's now divorced, and he shares custody, but he does have a 5-year-old daughter. And he talks about Paul again. And he says, you know what? Since I'm doing this whole closure thing, and the whole Paul thing keeps coming up, maybe I need to reach out to Paul and see if maybe we can have a conversation and close this loophole too. So he texts Paul. Paul immediately responds, and he's like, look, I'm in New Orleans. Do you want to talk? Baby, Paul hit him with the, I'm on my way. Now, I don't know where Paul lives, But Paul was like, I'll be there tomorrow. Okay. Cool. Where you live, Paul? Now, while this is going on, Julie realizes that she has bruises on her, and she immediately decides that the bruises came from Tokyo and that he was manhandling her and he was rough with her while he was pulling her off the dance floor, to the point where she said she had to throw her weight to get him off of her, and she doesn't like to be touched, and it's not cool for him to grab her, and it's not cool for him to put his hands on her like that. See, that's what I told y'all in the last review. I said it in the last review, did I not? Didn't I say that the minute he put his hands on her, I felt some kind of way? And I was like, he should have let Jamie do it. Now, Jamie, to his credit, said, listen, David did what I was getting ready to do. Like, I don't feel no kind of way about David grabbing her and pulling her off that dance floor, because if he hadn't done it, I was going to do it. My problem with you, Jamie, is that I needed you to say that to Julie, and I needed you to say that there were 3 or 4 opportunities where I wish you had said that. Now, maybe you did, and it was edited out, because I'm a firm believer that I understand editing does happen. So I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, Jamie, because I feel like you were 100% Team Tokyo. So I ain't saying you threw him under the bus. I'm not saying you did anything wrong. I just needed you and Danny to be a little bit more vocal about how fucking drunk Julie was. Like, I think she feels like that Tokyo is trying to make it out to be something that it wasn't, and it was absolutely not that. So they're at Cafe Du Monde. They go on a field trip. They go down to Cafe Du Monde, and while they're at Cafe Du Monde, Julie makes a comment about David manhandling her. Baby, the minute she said it, David looks at Melissa. Melissa looks at David, and once again, I was here for the solid conversation, because they had a whole conversation, and Melissa was like, I know you are simmering. He said, I absolutely am. Nothing else needed to be said, because what is understood doesn't have to be spoken. They knew exactly. What is understood doesn't have to be explained is actually what I'm trying to say. But both of them knew exactly where that was going. See, them white woman tears that you about to pull out, Julie, you about to turn this whole situation, you about to turn it into something that's not. And what I didn't like was that on the way back to the house, David, Melissa, and Matt rode in one car, and everybody else rode in another car. So the whole way there, Julie is having this conversation about how horrible David was to her, and how he's got these bruises, and this, and this. Now, again, Danny did speak up in that moment, and Danny told her, girl, you was drunk off your ass. You was really doing the most. Like, no, it was that bad. And she was like, but it wasn't. I knew what I was doing. I was under control. I was in control. I don't have a problem. And he didn't have to do that. And I shouldn't have to throw my body weight to get him off of me. Like, don't touch me. I don't like people touching me. He was grabbing me. Like, again, you're spinning this narrative. And David's in the other car like, yo, I'm not liking this. I'm not feeling this narrative. Because, see, here's the thing. The same reason why I said what I said in the last review is the same reason why David feel the way he feel, and the reason why Melissa understands. Because we understand how fast that narrative can spin, and what that narrative means for David. As a black man grabbing on a white woman, it ain't a good look. It's not a good look. So they get back to the house, and everybody, like I said, they get back to the house. Everything is everything. And again, Julie and David end up having this conversation, right? And David, again, is trying to explain to Julie why the way she is trying to replay what happened is dangerous. And she starts talking about she don't like to be touched and she don't like to be grabbed, and she doesn't, she said, listen, if I'm getting drunk, let me be drunk. If I fall on my face, let me fall on my face. David was like, you did. Literally. She was like, great, then let me fall on my face. He was like, but you did. He was like, listen, I was just trying to be a friend of you. Don't switch the narrative. Don't turn this into David was abusing me when really David was just helping you. Like, don't do that. And she was like, but see, he said, because what's going to happen is, he said, I'm either going to do all or nothing. Like, I can't do this with you. I'm not going to play this game with you. And again, I am so here for this. I'm so proud of this, because I remember David having a similar conversation with Melissa about this with her drinking. And in the moment, it came off very much asshole like because everything else about David was asshole like. But in this situation, I 100% understood what he was saying. He's saying the same thing, but his delivery was a little bit different this time. And he was like, "Listen, either you're going to allow me to be a friend to you, or you're going to take everything I do and twist it because you don't want to accept or deal with what it is that you're doing. And I'm not playing that game with you. That's not what I'm going to do." And she was just like, "Well, let me be what I want to be, and just like you want me to respect how," she said, "because that's not going to work for me. You're saying all or nothing. That's not going to work for you." He was like, "It doesn't have to work for you. This is me. These are my feelings. It doesn't have to work for you at all. It only has to work for me." "Well, what do you mean?" See, that's it. And this bitch throws a whole tantrum. She throws her food, gets up and says, "Well, this conversation is just over." Girl, what? Girl, you trying to win an Emmy? Girl, what you got going on? Julie is doing the most, y'all. So while this is going on, Paul shows up, right? And Paul and Danny are able to have the conversation that they need to have. Now, what we found out was the reason why their relationship ended is because Paul started having an affair with their mutual best friend. And Danny was like, the impact that not only did I lose my partner of 8 years, but I also lost my best friend in the worst kind of betrayal. It was a lot. That was a lot for me to process. That was a lot for me to take in. And, Paul was very different from what he remembers. He said, Paul was very conservative. This dude showed up like something straight out of like, what's that movie with Robin Williams? Oh shoot, now I can't think of the name of it. With the gay couple down in Key West or Miami, wherever it was. Anyway, that's who he looked like, with the party shirt opened up to the first 3 buttons undone and like 2 or 3 gold chains, and he's got the mustache and stuff. I said, "Oh, okay, Paul." And he said, "Yeah, Paul looks totally different." And Paul says, "Listen, I'm I would never want somebody to do to me what I did to you." And but the one thing they agreed upon is that the relationship had run its course, and both of them were sort of staying in it. They felt like out of obligation to what they had put out to the world. Danny said he had never been on the real world and he had never shared his relationship with Paul. He said they'd have broken up long before they actually did. But both of them stayed with the other one out of this sense of obligation for the world to see, gay couple, it can work. And he said their relationship rotted from the inside out. And Paul said, "I can agree with that." He said, "Because I put you on such a pedestal because I felt like what you did was so courageous." He said, "A gay man on TV today is nothing. It's not a big deal. But when you did it, it was a big deal. And I loved you so much, and I was so proud of you, and I respected you so much for doing that." And Paul said, Danny said he carried so much anxiety with the weight of his whole military career on his shoulders. Like, listen, if you had been outed and you had been kicked out of the military, or worse, been arrested, or something had happened to you as a result of our relationship and me putting it out or putting myself out there, that's a guilt that I don't know if I would have been able to deal with. And so they had to deal with, both of them talked about their own trauma, their own experience in that relationship. And I thought it was a good conversation. Danny definitely said that he felt like he was able to walk away having the closure that he felt like he needed with Paul. So I thought that was cool. Now, while this is going on, Tokyo has decided that he is no longer comfortable staying in a room with Julie, and he wants to change rooms. So Jamie goes to Julie. No, rewind. Before we even get to that, before we even get there. So later on that night, baby, Julie is in the hot tub. And Julie forgets 2 things. 1, where her hot tub is in relationship to people's window. And 2, when it's at night and it's quiet, your voice carries. So she's in the hot tub on the phone with her husband, talking about everybody. And Melissa and Kelly literally are sitting in the window listening to her have this whole conversation. She talks about how they are boring, how they go to bed early, how they're so old, and she wants to have fun, and they don't want to do anything fun. She said, I'm trying to make good TV here. I took a bullet for them. I literally took a bullet. I got drunk at the bar, and I took a bullet for them so that I could create some excitement, and they don't even appreciate what I'm trying to do here. So first of all, and that's why I said earlier that I don't think I think that her getting drunk was part of her plan, but I don't think that her falling out the car, face planting, throwing up all over the place, like, I don't think that was part of the plan, like, because who would do that? But, girl, you playing games here. Like, this is just, and like Kelly said, listen, I'm not being boring, I'm being inappropriate. I'm being appropriate. I am a mom. Like, I'm a businesswoman. I'm out here making moves. I'm getting ready to put a book out. I can't be on TV acting the fool. Like, I'm just not that person. Even when she was on her season, she wasn't crazy. She was like, but, did we go out? Sure. Am I going to have a couple of drinks? Yep. Am I going to laugh and joke? Yep. Julie was like, they're scared to talk about anything because they're so scared of how it's going to make them look. I feel like they've had some hard conversations. I mean, granted, most of it has been around Danny and his situation, but they've had some. And again, you've been there 3 days, girl. Maybe 4 by now. I don't know. But, girl, you've been there 3-4 days. Chill out. The hardest conversation y'all about to have is about your ass. But anyway, so Melissa and Julie are like, okay, see, now we see what you really trying to do here. And Kelly, I mean, not Julie, Melissa and Kelly. And Kelly was like, girl, if I'm boring, then oh well, I just got to be boring because this is who I am. This is what I'm bringing. Like, I'm sorry. I got too much going on to be on here acting a fool. And Melissa was like, girl, I am 44 years old. I am a mom. Like, I am not that girl. Like, I'm not that girl. Like, what is wrong with you? So, the next day, Tokyo expresses to Jamie that he's not comfortable staying in a room with Julie and he wants to, find somewhere else to sleep or whatever. And so Jamie lets Julie know, listen, Tokyo's going to be moving out. And she's like, well, why can't he tell me that? Why can't he talk to me about that? So Tokyo and Melissa have the conversation that they silently had, but they actually verbally have it, where basically they talk about the narrative that Julie is spinning and how uncomfortable it makes David because of who he is and how vulnerable he is as the black man in the room. And he's not a little black guy, right? David is, he ain't fat or anything, but he's not a little dude. And I mean, he's a little thick, but he ain't fat. And she's just like, Melissa's like, listen, when I was on my season, I didn't want to be the spokesperson for Black America. Like, I didn't want to be that person. But we did have some hard conversations. We did have some interesting truths. And, after I left the show, people told me, listen, you made me think things in a different way. You made me see things from a different perspective. So she was like, for that, I'm thankful. She said, but listen, you can't allow her to spin this. Like, you have to, I get where you're coming from. I can't become the angry black woman. You can't become the angry, aggressive black man, but but we can't allow her to spin this because we know where that goes. We know what white woman tears can do, right? So David decides he's going to call a house meeting, which I can respect. David said, listen, I need to say how I feel, and I need to share my perspective of this situation. And I can respect where David is coming from. Y'all, they get ready, so they called a meeting. Of course, Julie was like, oh Lord, because she knows it's about her ass. So they get into the meeting, and David is trying to say to her, listen, I don't appreciate the fact that you're trying to change the narrative. Let's not act like your ass wasn't, your ass wasn't fall out drunk, that you were all over that dance floor, that you were being belligerent, that you were being, disrespectful, that you were making other people feel uncomfortable. Like, let's not act like that wasn't going on. Let's not act like that you are so drunk that you don't even remember the next day what you did. So for you to assume and turn the narrative that I manhandled you and I was so rough with you, he said, as a black man, do you understand how that looks and what narrative that spins? So Julie keeps trying to cut him off, and he's like, wait a minute, let me finish talking. Let me get my point out. So she was like, fine. So then he starts talking again, and she goes to cut him off again. Well, you want to move out? Fine. He said, this ain't about me moving out. I can sleep under the pool table. That ain't the issue. The issue is you are not going to spin this narrative. Now, here is where I got frustrated. And granted, the episode cut off during this conversation, so let me put a pin in that. But this is where I needed Jamie and Danny to be like, girl, you was drunk as hell. You was drunk off your ass. You was whooping. Now, Melissa, she chimed in, which I could respect, because Melissa was like, what you're not going to do, I'm not going to sit here and allow you to turn this into a white woman crying about the big black man that manhandled her. Like, I'm not going to allow you to do that. I'm not going to allow you to make that the narrative, because it would be disingenuous of me to sit back as the other black woman in the room and let that be the story that's told. You know, and of course now Julie is like, so y'all, so it's all me. So I'm the bad guy. She said, why would you assume? She said, well, he put bruises on me. She said, girl, you also face planted onto the concrete. You also ran headfirst into a tree. Why wouldn't you think that any of those things could be the reason why you have bruises? Why do you automatically say, oh, the black man did it? The black man put these bruises on me. She was like, because I don't remember all of that. She was like, exactly. But you don't remember any of that other stuff happening, but you remember David putting his hands on you. But you don't remember none of the other stuff I just told you happened. But the next morning you woke up and was like, oh, I'm fine. Everything's great. And that's where the episode ended. Girl, y'all, MTV, y'all know y'all playing with me. Y'all better hurry up and drop that next episode, because I need to see how this conversation ended, okay? Anyway, let me know what y'all think. Drop it in the comments. Peace.